What's up, guys? How are you? Welcome in to another live episode of the college basketball live stream here on the BettingPros YouTube channel alongside Terrell, Furman. I'm Matt Perrault. After a week off when, the guys all came to Vegas, I left town. I came out east. I'm on the East Coast just like Terrell is. How are you, my friend? Good to see you again. How was the trip to Vegas for you?
Oh, it was great. It was very, very good to get something other than the cold, brisk East Coast air going through. And now we have another cold front, whatever it is, type of front that's bringing this snow and bad weather. I'm not looking forward to it. Get me back to Vegas. I would love to be over there where you're at.
Yeah, I'm on a plane. I'm in New Hampshire. So I'm on a plane headed back on Friday, and it's going to be 75
Hopefully.
degrees. Yeah, it's gonna be right. It's gonna be 75 degrees when I take off. So hopefully I get back to Vegas in time. Get out of here before another winter storm rolls through. We had 10 inches that fell a couple days ago here in New Hampshire.
No.
The great temperature of 10 degrees with a wind chill that made it feel like 0. So I haven't felt temps like this since I lived in Omaha and Des Moines. So it's been a nice reminder of what the wind can do when you're outside and it's cold. It's definitely college basketball weather. So that's why we're here. For you with the NBA on hiatus, are you looking more heavily into the college basketball markets because the NBA is off to the weekend?
Yeah, a little bit. I've been dibbling and dabbling here or there. Got some good picks going yesterday, but it's also really another time to really get acclimated with all these teams going into conference tournament season. That's what I really, really love. I love conference tournaments, and I love watching teams be able to see teams for a third time, sometimes a second time, sometimes, and really, really make those adjustments and put themselves on trajectory in the tournament. One of my recent tournament Cinderellas that I saw was Georgetown when they were able to go through the Big East tournament and win. And that was very, very improbable. And they were nowhere near a Big East title at that point in the season. So I love conference tournament season.
Yeah, we're getting right close to it, to the end of the regular season, into I'm headed to the SEC tournament in Nashville to go and hang out and watch that tournament for a couple of days, which if you listen to Jay Billis of ESPN, he believes that this is the single strongest conference in the history of college basketball with the SEC this year. And his point is basically that we don't see power conferences with 16 teams, that right now there could be 14 of them making the NCAA tournament. I mean, look at the net rating, right? I mean, you have almost the entire conference is in the top 50 of the net rating. And you just don't see that nowadays in college basketball. The Big Ten's had some very strong years in the past, but not like this. Not when you have 8 of the top 25 teams in the net rating are all from one conference in the SEC. Let me ask you this. Auburn versus the Field for the SEC championship in Nashville.
Field?
Yeah,
because Florida's in the Field, and I think Florida's really, really good, man. They've been having injuries. Like, I think Florida's injuries to their top guys, it's not like they've just been losing, extra depth pieces here or there. They're losing some really, really valuable pieces to that Florida team, and they keep winning, man. They just keep on chucking on and winning. I am really, really sold on Florida right now. So you tell me Auburn plus the Field, I'm taking the Field because Florida's out there.
100%. So I took the Gators to win the national championship at 10-1 last night. So I'm with you on that. I wanted double digits, so I got Florida. I don't know what to do with Auburn because I think Auburn, look, they're 14 quad 1 wins cannot be overestimated. The next closest team to Auburn and with quad 1 wins is 8. Now there's a multitude teams with 8, but they have 14. So they almost have doubled up the field in terms of their quad 1 victories at 14-2. They've gone on the road. They would just won at Alabama over the weekend. I still don't understand how Bama was a home favorite there. Auburn should have been favored. They were a dog on the road. They won the game easily. I think Auburn, to me, I'll be involved with them, but Auburn and Duke have separated with the sports books right now, where it's basically 3-1 or 4-1 to win it all. I don't see any value in betting beating Auburn or betting Duke right now. Do you?
No, not really. And the thing that scares me about Auburn and some of these places that have this historic kind of atmosphere at home for a season is that when you get to the neutral court, and you still dominate the crowd on the neutral court, it's not the same. It's not the same as when that place is rocking. And granted, Auburn's still been pretty good on the road, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But I think that I can see them getting got. Like, if you sat here and told me Auburn got knocked out in the Sweet 16 or prior, I'd be like, you know what? I'm not surprised, because it just seemed like they were on an unimaginable high right now. and they came down for a game. So I think Florida's a lot more sound. I think I'm really locked in on Florida on both sides of the ball right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stats for, on Ken Palm for offensive and defensive efficiency. Auburn's got the number one most efficient offense in college basketball. They have the 14th best defensive efficiency in college basketball, but Florida is fourth on offense and ninth on defense. Like,
Yeah.
I think people are sleeping just on how good Florida has been, not just at home, but on the road in that win at Auburn. I feel like because the whole conference has been talked about so much with the SEC, that we're not looking at Florida, which could be a 1 seed. And the fact that they're 10-1, I mean, that's where I'm going, hold on a second. I think when people
Yeah.
start paying attention to that, they're going to go, wait a minute.
That's a lot of value.
I
Yeah.
have a 1 seed at 10-1. Like, how in the world are we justifying that? So that's why I jumped in on Florida. And look, I think the Gators are going to be a team that could really run and score with anybody in the country. So, and they got a game tonight against Oklahoma. Let's start with them. They're the number 13 ranked in the country. They're laying 14 or 14.5 with a 156 point total here. Oklahoma is one of the bubble teams. If you look at bracketology, they are one of the teams, first team in, first team out settings. Can Oklahoma shock the world here, or do you like the Florida Gators to keep going at home and winning big?
Yeah, that doesn't really matter to me because I think Oklahoma's only a bubble team because of how their season started, not how it's ended. They haven't done anything in SEC play. They haven't been any type of team that I kind of want to back at this point. And that's really tough because I'm a Porter Moser guy. Like, I really, really enjoy Porter Moser as a coach. I was there throughout the Loyola Chicago. Like, I really, really love Porter Moser as a coach, but it's not there with this team. And it's like you have these super conferences and you have all these teams. Somebody has to suck and somebody has to be bad. And I think there's just too much of a talent gap between how Florida's playing basketball right now and Oklahoma. Like, everything has to go right. And I mean everything from rebounding the basketball, from being able to hit your shots and get over the Florida defense, but then also not let Florida go into runs, because if Florida puts up 80 plus points in this, I don't think that Oklahoma's scoring anywhere close to 80. So yeah. I'm on Florida here. I feel pretty confident in saying that I'll lay the number with Florida, and Florida's going to go out here and just have a dominant win. This is a handle business spot. They're going on the road to LSU, but you're not looking forward to this LSU team. Like in years past, maybe that's interesting and something to look ahead to, but it's not for Florida. I think Florida's handling business here.
Yeah, in the chat, good job, Seth. Put up that Florida opened at 60-1 to win the national championship, down to 950, 10-1 too. It's out there.
Yeah.
There's 10s out there that you can go ahead and grab onto that. I'll do you one better. I covered Porter Moser when he was at Illinois State before he wound up going to Loyola Chicago, before Loyola Chicago got entered into the Missouri Valley Conference. I'm with you. I love Porter Moser, but I do not like what I've seen over the last couple of weeks out of this team in Oklahoma. I mean, they've lost 4 games in a row straight up. They've lost 5 of 6 straight up. And the only wins they have in conference are against South Carolina, Arkansas, and Vanderbilt. They're 3-9 right now in the SEC. And you're absolutely right. The only reason why we're talking about
a bubble team. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's a bubble team. Insane. It's a bubble team because they beat Arizona. They beat Louisville, and they beat
They were
Michigan.
Dominant in the non-conference. They were dominant in the non-conference.
So you get 3 wins like that. You get 3 wins against those quality top 30 Ken Palm ranked teams, and it's going to help your net rating. It's going to put you in a place where you've got quad 1 wins. So you're going to be talked about if you could end the year strong. But they have Florida, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Missouri,
they're
and
not going
Texas.
to be on the bubble much longer.
No, I agree with you. I mean, they might lose out. I mean, they're going to be. Ken Palm has them winning 1 more game this entire season, and that's a game at home against Mississippi State, which is not going to be a gimme by any means.
Yeah.
When they're probably going to be maybe pick 'em or maybe even a home dog against Mississippi State coming up on Saturday, and then they have Kentucky, Ole Miss, Missouri, Texas, which are games that they could lose by double digits. So this is a big game for. Only reason why I looked at Oklahoma here is because if they don't perform well against Florida and if they get destroyed, you're absolutely right. This team is probably going to be taken off of the bubble. Ken Palm has it as a 15-point win. This is 4 straight wins for Florida, and their wins at home have been downright impressive. 88-67 against South Carolina. They won against Vanderbilt 86-75. They took down Georgia 89-59. They took down Texas 84-60. Like at home, winning by double digits has not been hard for Florida. So I don't mind for you laying it here. OU maybe in the first half plays with some desperation, but I think you'll see Florida stretch it out here and get a W. 2 games in the Big Ten that I want to get into. Purdue and Michigan State. Look at this is a 3.5 point favorite for Michigan State, but I I got something. I haven't bet this, okay, Terrell, but
Okay.
talk me off Purdue here. I mean, Michigan State's 8-5 ATS at home, but Purdue is
Yeah.
11-4 in the Big Ten this year ATS, and I got them at plus 3.5.
Yeah, you know, I think we should be on Purdue. I haven't bet this either, and I'm not there, and I was so close to doing it because I just don't like betting Purdue. It feels like when I get on the side of Purdue, that's when Purdue forgets how to play basketball. But it feels like this is a all-time desperation spot for Purdue at this point, especially with we're closing in on the end of the season. They just took 2 straight losses,
Yep.
and it feels like they can come into here. I really don't like taking Izzo as a favorite. It feels like
Right.
that's not really the spot that I like him at. I prefer when everybody's kind of doubting him and he kind of fires that teams up and lights something under them, and he's the hunter and not the hunted. So I don't really like him as a favorite. So anytime that I can fade him as a favorite and it makes sense, I think so. I thought I'd be getting a little bit more points here with how Michigan State's been playing all year, but I think maybe it being at 3.5 is probably kind of telling. Like, I really, really wouldn't be surprised if Purdue even just makes this a 1-point loss type of deal. And they're really, really competitive in this game because the desperation is kicking in. They really, really weren't supposed to take that last loss.
Yeah, as Brady Click has pointed out, the 3-point shooting for Michigan State has been awful this year. They are 353rd in the country in 3-point shooting this season. They're below 30% from behind the arc. They're better, obviously, from 2 at 55%. That's nearly top 50. It's 52nd. Purdue's defense is not great against the 2, but they're great against the 3. So if they can not allow Michigan State to get hot from the outside, and Purdue's offense, as normally with Matt Painter, 8th in efficiency, 26th in 3-point shooting, 28th in 2-point shooting. They're 11th in effective field goal percentage. We know what Michigan State does with Izzo. We know the defense that they have. They're always top 25 in most key metrics for college basketball, but I mean, my gosh, give me Purdue on the road. You want to take money line? I don't hate the play on the money line. It's 3.5 to take it. It's a 2-point loss according to KenPom, so you get a 1.5 there if you want to jump in on that. I think Purdue wins the game outright. I'm with you, but I'll take the points at 3.5 for Purdue here on the road up against Michigan State. The other Big Ten game is Illinois at Wisconsin. I have gotten involved with this game here. It's 3.5 or 4. Illinois has been reeling, Terrell. This has been a team, you mentioned getting hot early. Another team that was everyone's darling in the non-conference, everyone's darling in the start of the Big Ten season. But since then, not so great, losing by 14 in their last game at home to Michigan State and a hot Wisconsin team. They're 11-3 ATS in the Big Ten. They've covered 4 straight games.
I couldn't get there with this one. And I think that I lean a little bit more to the Illinois squad. I feel like you have a better tap into this game than me, but it was really because I same thing. I think that this Illinois team is reeling, and even though I liked how they started the season, I think that they started to look like they could be one of those teams that can compete in the Big Ten over the course of the season. But it just doesn't seem like they've found any type of footing. They've been incredibly inconsistent, and something that I just don't feel comfortable betting. But I do think they have the athletes that can compete with Wisconsin. And whenever Wisconsin basketball really, really starts to kind of show, hey, we only have this high of a ceiling, it's really because they don't have the athletes. And somebody comes out here is a lot more physical, a lot more athletic, able to run the floor on them and able to push them out of the game that they like to play. I think Illinois can do that. And that's why I was tempted to go that way. But I'm interested in hearing about what you got.
Well, it's wild because the total of this game is 161.5. If you've watched Wisconsin basketball at all, you know that a Wisconsin game being 161.5 is like,
crazy.
wait, what? But 1, they're at home. 2, it's a 5-point win according to KenPom. 3, they're 11-3 in the Big Ten ATS wise. They're 8-2 over their last 10 games ATS wise. 4-1 over their last 5, and a 4-7 Illinois team away from home, and a 6-10 in the Big Ten ATS team. I mean, even when they're favored, they're not winning. They were at home against UCLA. They won by 7. So they won by 5 as 7-point favorites. You know, I just don't think this Illinois team, after their loss to Michigan State, and you could say, well, that was Izzo passing Bobby Knight, and that's why they had so much extra juice in that game for Michigan State after they lost their home game, trying to do it at home. They go on the road and get it done. I just think Wisconsin's a better basketball team, and I think Wisconsin right now, I mean, people are sleeping on this offense for Wisconsin. They're 6th in efficiency. They're 34th in effective field goal percentage. They're 49th in 3-point shooting.
Number
And they're
one free throw team in the nation, baby.
number one
Hey,
free.
we
And
won't
that,
miss them free ones.
but that to me, when I'm laying points, I'm
Yeah,
looking at
no,
that's
that's
one of the
big.
first
That's
metric I
big.
look at. Like, do you hit your free throws? Because when it comes to late game situations, a 3.5, it could be one free throw can get me to 4, and I cover versus not. So I'm huge on teams, and you're absolutely right. Number one free throw shooting team in college basketball, Wisconsin Badgers. So I laid 3.5 with Wisconsin. Some books are at 4, but if you can find a 3.5 out there, I think it's worth shopping around and getting it under 4 for that one. This game between Kansas and BYU, Terrell, I have 2 bets going on it. I do not like Kansas. I've been against them a ton this year. I think they're overrated. They're coming off a 7-point loss on the road to Utah. They lost to Kansas State on the road. They lost to Baylor on the road. They've lost 3 straight road games. I think they lose again here tonight in a really hard environment. Going to Provo to take on BYU is no picnic. Going to Salt Lake, also no picnic. I think they lose them both. I got BYU money line. Where are you?
I didn't really get there with this one. I understand why everybody here is on BYU. It seems like that's kind of the sharp angle of going, but I don't know. It's something that when you start putting that dog next to Kansas and they start to wake up, and I think the 3 straight road games is the thing, especially when you have the back-to-back set. You've been in Utah already, and you've been hanging around. You're sitting on that last loss, so you're like, hey, man, for this second team and this back end of the road trip, we're going to get up and we're really going to go out here and try to leave out something positive. And so that's the thing that really scared me off of taking the BYU side of, is this going to be that moment where they say, hey, we're out here in Utah. We're really sitting there reeling off of that Utah loss that we probably really shouldn't have taken, and they take it out on BYU.
So not only am I taking BYU money line, I didn't lay the points. I did it, laid it to just it's 3.5. Some books I think are actually at 2.5 for this one.
It's not bad. Minus 150 now.
Yeah, I laid 140 last night. So I took money line, just not even going to play around with it and say, okay, I like BYU at home. Ken Palm has this as a 1-point win for Kansas on the road, but the numbers from a total perspective are eye-opening. It's 147.5, 148 is what I played. You can look at it's 9-2 to the under for Kansas on the road this year. Kansas is 19-6 to the under overall this year. They're just 5-5 over their last 10, but last 2 games against Utah went under by 5 points. Game against Colorado went under by 12.5 points. Game against Iowa State went under by 25.5 points. Did go over against Kansas State, but 3 of the last 4 games have gone under. For BYU, their last game at home against Kansas State was 146.5. Game went under by 1.5 points. I like the under in this game as well. I think you can take BYU money line and the under. I think KU is going to slow down here. I just don't like the post play for Kansas. Hunter Dickinson, to me, he's just a paper tiger. At some games he rises up and plays well, and you could say, well, this falls into the win-lose kind of rhythm that Kansas has been in. They beat TCU, lost to Houston, beat Central Florida, lost to Baylor, beat Iowa State, lost to Kansas State, beat Colorado, lost to Utah. So that would be a win here over BYU if you keep with the same rhythm. But they lost back-to-back road games to Creighton and Missouri back at the beginning part of December. And this is Utah and BYU. These are tough environments to go into. Kansas and Missouri, those were Super Bowl games for those teams. Same thing for Utah and BYU here. You just don't see a Kansas go on the road to Utah to play in these 2 games in Salt Lake and in Provo. And there's not a lot of history here for Kansas. Like, they're used to going to Iowa State. They know when they go to Kansas State what they're going to get. They don't really know what they're going to get here when they play Utah and they play against BYU. So I like BYU tonight to win the game. I like the under as well. So I got a lot of action riding on this one. I'll be closely paying attention to see here what's going to happen there. We haven't talked Big East basketball. Let's get to the big game in the Big East tonight. Villanova and UConn. Game is in Hartford at the Excel Center. 8.5 now for UConn. I saw as high as 9 at one point today for Connecticut. This team comes off of the loss to Seton Hall, 13-point loss for Villanova on the road against Providence. UConn's not losing this game today, are they?
I mean, if they do, nah, I don't think they're gonna lose. But I mean, are you gonna sit here and lay points with UConn right now? Like, not with
No.
this explosion. Like, it feels like a dumpster fire, and it's not a team that I want to bet in a bounce back situation. I understand this is an incredible bounce back situation, but this UConn team is not a team that I want to bet in a bounce back right now. Like, they haven't been as UConn as they've been in years past.
Yep.
They've been struggling covering large numbers, and this is a rather large number to sit here and say in a bounce back. You can go in here and get a win by 6, and you think that you bounce back after getting
Right.
embarrassed
Good
by
point.
Seton Hall of all teams. Like, you just need a win to get out of here. So yeah, man. Can UConn go out here and destroy them? Probably so. Am I betting it? No way. I'd much rather sit there with the plus 8.5 in my pocket than laying it with UConn right now. The Seton Hall loss, like, I don't think people understand how bad Seton Hall really is. Like, that's a really, really bad loss.
Really bad loss. One of those things that they'll bring up when it comes to, like, on Selection Sunday, when they start looking at your resume, it says bad losses.
Yeah.
Bad
Seton
loss.
Hall.
Seton Hall, really, really bad loss. And Nova's a team that can play you tough. They can play physical and they can body you up even on the road. It's a team that likes to get into a street fight. And I'm not a huge fan of Villanova. I'm not a huge fan of Kyle Neptune, but I think that they're a team that can play physical, that can make it difficult on you. And, look, they lost by 2 points at home to Creighton. They lost, they've brawled, lost by 12 to St. John's, but fought them hard in that game on the road. Speaking of St. John's, where are you on Patino here? Because they're getting slept on. They're going to win the Big East Conference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they are. Yes.
And they're going to be a 4 seed. They're going to be a 4 seed after winning the Big East Conference. But the metrics would tell you that they're better than that, no?
I think they are better than a 4 seed. I'm really now they're trying to create this narrative that Slick Rick is an underdog going into the tournament, and I think that's hilarious that they're doing it, but they're successfully doing it because the Big East used to be one of the premieres of basketball. Like, if you won the Big East, you were a 1 seed. We're like, come on now. What are we talking about here? The fact that they're being disrespected as far as a 4 seed is actually just a lot. Like, even Marquette won the Big East and was a 2 seed. So I don't know, man. I think they really are sleeping on the St. John's team, and I understand it. There has not been a recent history of St. John's being really good at basketball. So when you see St. John's this high up in the rankings and in the pollings and talk about them winning the Big East, it's very foreign to a lot of people. This Slick Rick's got it done. He's figured it out, and he's started to get this team playing really, really good basketball. They're able to defend. They're able to score efficiently. I think St. John's is underestimated, and I think they can make a run. I wouldn't be surprised they make a run. I'm not saying that I'm going to go out here and place a championship future on them, although some people have, and I'm not against it.
There's value.
But he's going to make it fun for us, and I think the Big East typically tends to do that in most situations, especially when it comes to March.
Yeah, Lou Carnesecchia, 1973 to 1992, with the run that he had. The last time St. John's was really a household name, if you will, from a college basketball standpoint. He was a 3-time Big East Coach of the Year back when the Big East was the Big East. But for St. John's, their defense, they can play with anybody. They've got the athletes to go up against anyone in college basketball. The problem with St. John's for me is their 3-point shooting. The Juice talks about Chris Mullen. If they had Chris Mullen, I'd feel much better about St. John because they need a 3-point shooter. They need consistent 3-point shooting. For whatever reason, when they play the Creighton Blue Jays,
former St. John's coach.
Yeah, too. Yeah. They can knock down threes. They can play really well against certain defenses, but against other teams that can play physical with them, like Villanova, they have a tough time hitting 3-point shots. So that's my worry when it comes to a neutral site game and you go to, someplace in the middle of the country or you go somewhere down south to play and you're in a building that's unfamiliar to you. What do you do outside shooting wise? Because that's the book on St. John's. Just let them shoot. Don't let them get to the rim. Let them shoot from the outside and you'll have a pretty good day. So that's why I haven't purchased a future on St. John's. And I don't know if they even win the Big East tournament for that matter, even though it is at MSG. I don't know how their legs are going to go for 3 days shooting jump shots if they get forced into a jump shooting contest against teams in the Big East. So I like a Marquette potentially to win the Big East Conference tournament. I like the Jays, but I'm worried about Kalkbrenner's foot injury. That's a significant injury to have your best player, one of the best player in the conference, have a foot injury at 7'1". So Big East tournament's gonna be fun though. It's going to be an absolute war coming up. All right, you went off a little off the beaten path. What are you betting here officially for us here on our college basketball live stream?
All right, let's talk about those Texas A&M Aggies because I'm getting the buzz saw Buzz Williams as a dog. very, very good his time here, 57, 58% here as a dog during his time here at Texas A&M. And we're getting him against a Mississippi State team that's coming off of the Egg Bowl victory
Mm,
again. So they
mm.
they swept them this year. They got 2 on Ole Miss. I think that's a little bit of a letdown here. We got one of the best offensive rebounding teams, not one of the best offensive rebounding team in the nation in Texas A&M here. I think that they're going to force a lot of extra possessions with that offensive rebounding, really, really out physical and be able to put this and run the score up on this Mississippi State team. So I like them to cover the +2.5 here. I like a sprinkle on the money line. And as another dog, we're going over to the MAC, baby,
Ooh,
because I don't know if you've seen this player, Marcus Johnson, play for Bowling Green.
mm-mm.
But when you think of DJ Burns,
Okay.
that's Marcus Johnson. And I mean, he's like the love
Round
child.
pound of rebound. Fucking
And he steps outside and shoots the 3 too. You would love him. He's the darling. He's gonna be the darling of the tournament
ooh.
If Bowling Green can somehow make magic and find themselves in the tournament, he would be the darling of the tournament. Like, so I think that this Bowling Green team playing a Kent State team that they're playing twice this go around. They got destroyed the first time. They're catching points here. Kent State has not been really, really good over the last 10 games in terms of covering the spread, and they've really started to come down, especially when they're laying double digits. They're 3-7 over the last 10 games ATS. I think that they're reeling a little bit. And ever since losing to them in that Central Michigan squad, this Bowling Green team has started to really find themselves play better and put together some good running. So I think at home, they have a really good outing. And I think they keep this game close, really, really challenge here. They were able to challenge Akron, which is the best team in the MAC at home. I think they can do it again here against Kent State. So I like Bowling Green +5.5.
Seth, go ahead and throw up those bets on the screen so folks can take a look at it. This coming in. So there's Terrell's bets for our Play Hero College Basketball live stream. A&M +2.5 and Bowling Green +6.5. Terrell, tell the folks about Fast Break Bets and what you do every weekday here on the Betting Pros YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah, every single weekday. We're talking about basketball. The NBA went on a hiatus, but that didn't slow us down. We had some HBCU bets going on that cash for us yesterday. We're going into the SEC today. You can still got time to go check out that podcast real quick, 10-minute stuff, and you'll be able to get out there and get some picks and just hang around, have some banter with me. So go check out Fast Break Bets every weekday.
It's a really fun listen. It's a really fun watch. I do enjoy what you do a lot. You guys haven't checked out Terrell's show. You really need to go ahead and do that. For me, I've added to the BYU money line play that we jumped in with earlier. I like BYU. I'm also making a play on the A&M game, except I'm taking the over for A&M.
Yeah.
And it's over 143.5. KenPom has it at 143, so we're right there. Even though A&M has been somewhat of an under team, 8-4 to the over for Mississippi State, 7-3 to the over the last 10, 8-4 at home, 7-3 over the last 10, 4-1 over the last 5. Mississippi State tends to give up points here. They could score as well. They scored 81 against Mississippi State. The Florida game went under for them, but that's because they only scored 68 points. That snapped a 3-game streak of everything going over. And I think A&M is going to get shooting opportunities. You mentioned second chance points. You mentioned the outside shooting. 143 is right in line, kind of where A&M has been for a lot of their games, and they've been somewhat of an under team on the road. They're 7-5 to the under, but I think this is an opportunity to kind of get a low number for A&M and kind of a mid number for Mississippi State. And so I'm going to play the over 143.5 for Texas A&M and Mississippi State. So Kansas BYU under 148.5. Like I mentioned, due to KU's 9-2 on the road to the under this year, taking BYU money line coming in on that. And then we're going with Wisconsin -3.5 and the over for Texas A&M and Mississippi State. If you guys haven't listened to the Daily Juice podcast, that's my version of what Terrell does every single day. You guys have got it with the Daily Juice right here on the Betting Pros YouTube channel. We've had a bunch of cool giveaways this week. You guys have really been jumping in on that, but a lot of college basketball. Obviously, we'll bet some hockey coming up on Thursday. We'll get into the NBA when it comes back. And then, last weekend was going to be kind of where we are. We bet NASCAR. We hit the NASCAR bet for the Daytona 500.
Nice.
We got in with golf. We hit a couple of golf plays. Pat Fitzmaurice gave me a good golf play. I jumped in with one of my own as well. We cashed a couple of tickets on that. So we'll be back with some golf. I don't know if I'll bet NASCAR again this weekend, but definitely when the NBA comes back, we'll be getting involved with that. So if you haven't subscribed to the Betting Pros YouTube channel, definitely do that. You can check out both Fast Break Bets and the Daily Juice right there, here, and when we're done for that matter. Terrell, any closing thoughts on the card tonight?
No. I think I'm on a lot of dogs today. I'm on a lot of underdogs today. So let's hope it goes that way.
It feels like it. There's a lot of games out there that I think you could see dogs jumping up.
I think I'm going to get in on Purdue. I know we
Okay.
talked about it and we danced about it around and we both kind of. I think I'm going to just go ahead and do it.
It's a good play. I like it. Take Purdue plus the points. I like it a lot. Fifth nightmare. We'll answer this question. You want to talk about South Carolina tonight? South Carolina money line.
Oh
here
yeah,
tonight?
I like South Carolina money line. I gave it out on Fast Break Bets. I'll go ahead.
Oh.
I mean, you got to go listen and get the rest of the breakdown. But I'll tell you, I like South Carolina. I think they get their first SEC win today.
They've lost 12 straight games.
I know, but that's really like even for bad teams, that's really hard to do. Like even bad teams get a win in there sometimes. So like they're due. They're due.
On the road at LSU.
LSU is pretty bad. Like
I know
LSU
they are,
is
but
pretty
on
bad.
the road.
No, LSU shouldn't be laying points
road.
ever. LSU shouldn't be laying points ever.
You guys are stepping in front of South Carolina trained and lost 12 straight games.
They've been good.
Ooh,
they almost beat Florida. They should have beat Florida.
Games.
They should have beat Florida the first. They should have beat Florida.
Ooh, baby. Liam, are these all of Matt's ad bets? Yes, these are the plays officially for the Daily Juice. Yes, the 3 plays that you've seen. Go ahead and throw that card up one more time so Liam can see it on these things. But South Carolina, the total in that game, maybe the over Brady click's not bad, but there's the play for my play for the Daily Juice. Add BYU money line, BYU under, Wisconsin minus 3.5, A&M and Mississippi State over 143.5. Terrell also is on that game. He likes A&M plus 2.5 and Bowling Green at plus 6.5. Guys, make a note of it for next Tuesday. Terrell and I will be back again for another edition of the college basketball live stream. Seth, great job in the back. We'll talk to you next Tuesday. Guys, best of luck and make sure you subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel.